our webinar From Crisis to Development, Modernizing Your Data Solution is basically a real-life example of a data warehouse, old data warehouse environment that went bad, and then we modernized it using Fabric technologies. That's something we are going to talk with Ville. And then we also have Carl Räihä, who's talking about data agents and some news from Vienna Fabric seminar. Sorry. So our presenters are, there is our presentation. Yeah. Show slides. Lots of technical problems today. Sorry about that. So I'm Mikko Kutvonen. I'm kind of the business unit director of the data and analytics at Innofactor. And we have Ville Salonen, who's a senior data engineer, and Ville is talking about the case we have today. And then we have our principal architect in data analytics, Carl Räihä, who's going to tell about, as I said, data agents and some news from the Vienna Fabric seminar. But we start off with Ville. So please.
Thank you, Mikko. So my talking point is about the project what we have, where we find the crisis and then we return it to development opportunity. So let me start about the familiar situation, which many organizations will eventually face. Over the years, our reporting environment had grown piece by piece, and every new business need led to another quick addition, a new data feature, or an ad hoc integration. And there were never a really holistic architectural plan, more of just like make it work mentality. And that, to be fair, it didn't work. It did work in production. Reports were delivered, KPIs were calculated, and the business made decisions based on the data and reports. But over time, something started to change, and adding a new features becomes slow and risky to the system, and a small change in one place could break something completely unrelated on that change, and maintenance started taking more time than actual development. And in fact, we are spending more time on maintaining yesterday's solution than building tomorrow's solutions. And at one point, we tried to fix this by creating a golden data set, like a single source of truth of all reports, which should be simple, right? But the reality, our existing architecture was too complex and fragmented to support it without major rewriting. And that's when question becomes unavoidable. Are we going to keep patching and firefighting, or are we finally going to redesign the foundation of our system? And in the moment of the frustration, the crisis, we really start pointing to the transformation to the new system. And then we made a decision to stop patching and start rebuilding. And instead of adding a new layers on top of the existing stack, which contains Azure SQL, Synapse Analytics, Databricks, and Power BI, we stepped back and rethought the entire architecture of our system. And we found out the key was to simplify. And we wanted to integrate the environment, not collection of the loosely connected tools. And that has led us to the Microsoft Fabric, which combines storage, transformation, governance, and reporting under one roof. And moving to Fabric allowed us to unify our data pipelines and drastically reduce complexity. Instead of 5 different technologies doing overlapping things, we now have one consistent platform which we can build and develop. And the execution was surprisingly efficient. We have a rather small team on building of this solution. We have only 3-person development team, and the project took only 3 months active work. So overall investment were about 1 man-year on the development side. But the impact was immediately in 4 key points. First, our infrastructure costs dropped from around 100K per annual to 60K annual. And our expected return of the investment is currently about 2 years. And our maintenance overhead dropped significantly. And the most important thing is that our architecture became clear and scalable for the future. And of course, any development projects, it wasn't all time smooth sailing. One of the biggest challenges wasn't the technical side, because techniques is good, but it were cultural. We had to convince our team that simplification didn't mean losing flexibility. And for blocking that difficult, we ran multiple workshops, demonstrate early results, and showed how new model actually gave them more control by making data governance and lineage visible for everyone in the project. And that's it. From complex to clarity, change how both IT and business view the data and data platform wholly. And what started technical crisis turned into strategical opportunity. And the cost of saving and return of investment were great, of course, and the project managers and leadership are looking those numbers, but that wasn't the biggest win of this project. The real transformation happened in how the organization use the data. With the new Fabric-based architecture, new reports, KPIs can be developed 2 or 3 times faster than in the previous system. Data quality improves drastically, which builds the trust of the user, which is the really key thing for the users who use data. And business users finally believe that the numbers they see are the correct numbers. And we also enabled self-service analytics more in this solution, allowing teams to explore and visualize their data by their own without waiting in line of the IT or development team. And we also engineered the AI tools for the users get even more out of the data, which you will hear a little bit later what kind of solutions there can be built in the Fabric. And the speed and confidence have changed the dynamic between the business and the development team. So now the communication is much more faster, and each other understand each other a better way. And instead of arguing about the data definitions, we are now talking about what to do with the insights, not the technical details. So yes, the return of investment is about 2 years, but the real return is confidence, agility, and the smart decision. And for looking back of these projects, we have a few lessons which stand out. And when you are going in this kind of process, don't start modernization by choosing the tool. Start with the architectural and the goals, what you are actually looking for the system, what you are building on. And keep it simple. Every extra layer adds long-term costs, both in development side and the infrastructural side. And use the crisis moment, which seems frustrating and impossible obstacle to move forward, for reasons to step back and redesign, not just repair. And my key takeaway is you can't innovate on top of technical debt, but you can transform it into growth if you dare to rebuild. Thanks for listening for everyone. And now back to Nico.
All right, thank you. We will have a short poll at this point, so you should be able to answer our questions about which technical debt symptoms and are causing things. So mark the ones you feel kind of to be most important. Yeah. So you can only select one, but we give it a short while. I imagine perhaps we are done with the poll. There are still some people who haven't voted, but perhaps you can, if you want. Yes. So we are almost there. Okay, I think we are about done. So we can share the results of these. As you can see, most people see as the most frustrating things about new features are slow and risky to launch. That's probably true. Vendors like Microsoft tend to launch things a bit early. They might not be the perfect condition at that point. But then, of course, data quality issues and the resources are also issues we occasionally show or see. All right. Then we will continue with Gal.
Yes, hello. So moving on. I'll have a short demo about Fabric data agents and how easy it actually to set them up. But first starting with some theory. So what is a Fabric data agent? It's a virtual analyst that allows the user to interact with the enterprise data. In practice, it means that it's like a co-pilot agent, but it's specialized on your data and you have taught it how to use your data. And then this data agent can be used by other agents as well. You can share it in Teams, you can use it in Copilot Studio as a part of a larger agent solution, and so forth. For the demo, we have a small proof of concept with the certificates, because in our ERP system, we have a list of all the certificates that every employee has. And well, for this demo, we extracted it from the production data and then moved it to our demo tenant. So this is the setup. We have now in this folder, I have a lakehouse and I have a semantic model. So let's quickly check. This is, as I said, very simple setup. We have one table where we have the validity of the certificate, what is the certificate ID, name, and who owns it, and so, and then also the organizational information. And to use an agent, you can do, as you saw in the previous slide, quickly, if you were fast enough, you could see that you can have many sources for the agent, but it's maybe I would recommend you to use a semantic model, because then the agent automatically recognizes the relationships between the tables. Now, in this example, I think the results would be the same if we would have, but we have, for the demo purpose, created a very simple semantic model here as well. Now, what we'll start with is creating a new item. This is still in a preview, just so you know that it's maybe not recommended to use in production, but it's at least very nice to play with, and you can use it to analyze your data. So I give it a name. And then I need to set up a data source. So we select the certificate semantic model. Then we need to select the table or the tables you want to use. So now I can ask already the agent questions about the data. Like show my certificates. Okay, well, this was not clear enough. It doesn't know who I am, so maybe I need to say. Background, we have an F8 capacity, so it's maybe not the fastest one. No, it doesn't recognize me. You can see. And in the previous demo, it did recognize my name in this format, but let's see if it helps with changing the time. Give my last name first. Okay, now it found. So as you see, it's a bit, it doesn't really always understand your questions, so that's why you should have instructions. And as an example, if I also ask the agent to show the certificates for my colleague, now I learn myself that I need to put them in this order. And as you can see, it has expired certificates, and these are not really interested in, we don't want the agent to show them. So what we can do is we can have instructions here for the agent. And one moment, I have pre-created the instructions, so I'll just copy paste them. The instructions can be written in Markdown, so you can also emphasize some words if they are important. So now I'm telling it that, hey, please reverse the order of the words in the name so that the first name comes last and vice versa. And also, we realized that there are some issues that it doesn't always read a single row, that it mixes up information and so forth. And it should always show only valid certificates. So let's start over with a clear chat. Put the name in how I at least usually pronounce names in Finnish. now it only shows the valid certificates for him and so on. And I could, of course, ask other questions. Let's see. Is it okay, Ville? Let's see, it's not English. Do we have any many? One valid. Excellent. Good. And that was actually all for this demo. So next, please, Mikko.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Carl. As you can see, the data agents are something that is really going to be interesting and I think very powerful feature. They still are in development phases, so but it enables us to kind of get data using kind of natural language queries or text sentences. But now we have a second poll, so about how confident you are that your current data architecture can handle future business needs. This is kind of tied to these big changes that we have all the time going on. So please check one of those. In the age of AI, I think it's quite typical that people are kind of having to rethink their architecture. So perhaps I'll just close the poll and get the results. And as you can see, most of the people are somewhat confident, but we know that we need to make improvements. I would say that as Innofactor, we are there as well. I mean, there's always room for improvement, and we can kind of do better. But especially the semantic models Carl mentioned need to be really in good shape for use of AI, for example. Very interesting things. And now Carl tells us about Vienna seminar. What's happening there?
Oh, hello again. So yes, I will share with you some updates from the Microsoft Fabric Community Conference this year, and it was held in Vienna. So, but to start with, just a little bit of background. What is the European Microsoft Fabric Community Conference, even called European FabCon? So, Microsoft arranges two conferences every year, one in USA and another one in Europe. In Europe, it was last year in Stockholm with around 3,000 persons. This year we were in Vienna, Timo Reikon and I. You saw Timo's certificates here already. We went to Vienna and had a nice 4 days learning a lot about Microsoft Fabric. You could either buy a 3-day pass or a 4-day pass. So with a 4-day pass, you either could select this sort of a tutorial day where you learn a lot about Fabric, or then a partner day, which were exclusively for partners, of course. And then the other days, of course, Wednesday, Tuesday started with a welcome and nice music, since we were in Vienna, keynote speech, some keynote speeches, and so on. So we selected different sessions that we wanted to listen to, and there were like 130 different sessions. So a lot of things. It was hard to find the ones that you really needed to listen to, since there were so many. But very useful. Also, in the break, you could go to the exhibit hall where there were over 40 partners and other companies marketing their products and services. There was a stand where there were always short demos going on. There was also Fabric TV place where Adam Saxton, the guy in the cube, and Patrick LeBlanc were having a show. And you also had the opportunity to talk to the Fabric developers. They were there in person. So if you had some technical stuff you want to discuss with them, it was go to the talk to the experts area and talk to them. My key takeaways from the conference are these. Fabric is the fastest growing analytics solutions by Microsoft. At the moment, there are already 25,000 Fabric customers, 6,000 partners, of which 250 are featured partners. And as an example, Microsoft said that there are 300,000 new notebooks being created every week. So quite a lot of usage. Also, Microsoft is investing a lot in Fabric and improving it all the time. As an example here, the data warehouse is today 36% faster than it was a year ago. And also new features are coming all the time. As an example, they mentioned also that the SAP connector is coming. Actually, 2 of them, I think. Also, what I realized at the conference is that Fabric is now much more mature as a product. It was launched, was it 22 months ago? They said in the conference, now it's maybe 23. So in the beginning, it was quite immature, to be honest. And now it's much better, and then they are improving a lot. Also from a developer point of view, now there is 100% CI/CD support. There are variable libraries. One-leg security is coming, and it's much less buggy. I've been using it myself for a year now, and you really see the change. Another message is that Microsoft made a deal with Databricks. So Azure Databricks is here to stay for the next 4 years at least. So that's good to know. Databricks was almost every second slide, it felt like, at least in the beginning. Regarding Azure Synapse, Microsoft said that yes, they will maintain it, fix bugs and so on. But the main focus is now on Fabric. So if you have Synapse in use, maybe we want to consider migrating it to Fabric. And as Mikko mentioned, one really key takeaway is make sure your data is ready for AI. It's now even more, well, I don't know if it's more important, but it's really shows that if you try to use AI with data and your data is not correct, then you will not get the right answers. So really focus on data quality and data modeling. The semantic model I showed here is an example how you shouldn't do it. You should have columns should have names that are useful for the person, for a human, and if it's useful for a human, it's also useful for AI. So it did understand quite well what the columns meant, but it would be even better if you would have it clearly stated. Good. Moving on. New announcements. There are a lot of new announcements, but nothing really major, I would say. Many small things, improvements here and there, things that are now generally available. And I'll go through a few of them now in the next slide, the ones that I selected to highlight, but I won't read through the list, but here is some. As you see, the list is long and I don't even have everything here. First one, the security enhancements. So, but all the time you have had the tenant level security and you have had some workspace level security. But what's new is now that for the workspace, you can have outbound trusted workspace access. You can use Azure private links for only one workspace. Previously, it was only on tenant level. You can also, in September, and outbound access protection for Spark. And if needed, you can also have customer managed keys in one lake. Previously, it was Microsoft managed keys. These are the same things that you had in the in the storage account, where you could also have customer managed keys, and also for databases as well. And workspace IP filtering if needed. Also, one new feature is the OneLake catalog security tab, which was actually now released last week into preview. So it's being rolled out. If you don't see it yet, it hasn't come to your tenant, but it's coming pretty soon. And it makes it possible for you to define the security for one data product in one place, or all data products in one place, and you can have row-level security or column-level security and so forth. And that security goes through all of the Fabric components using that. Of course, if you copy the data from a lakehouse to a warehouse, then you probably need to redefine it again on the warehouse because you have a copy of it. This will be enhanced for the next half year. And it will also be supporting in the future mirrored data sources. Another technical improvement is the Fabric Runtime 2.0. I haven't seen it yet, but it's coming. And it enables new capabilities from Spark 4.0 and Data Lake 4.0. So this could be something good for the developers. Also, the Fabric data agents, which I just demoed. Maybe the picture looks not familiar, but there's some new things coming there as well. So the data agents are now also supporting mirrored databases. So you can have a SQL database on-prem, for instance, that you mirror into Fabric, and then you can build an agent on top of that mirrored database. Or it could be, well, there are many different. It could be a Snowflake database that you're mirroring and so on. And the data agents are, you can store them now in version control and just deploy them through deployment pipelines as well. Also, another feature which could be very handy is the shortcut transformation. So for a long time, you have now been able to create shortcuts. That means that you actually have, for instance, you can select the table in Dataverse and create a shortcut, and then it shows in your lakehouse automatically. And the data is being updated on the fly. But what you can do now is transformations on top of the shortcut. And as an example, you can convert the formats, or you can enhance it, the shortcut using AI. So you can ask it to translate some columns or do a summary of some long text and so on. Also, from a developer point of view, it's nice that finally you can have all the items now in version control, and they have a 100% support for deployment pipelines as well. And Microsoft has selected to use public formats for everything, as Delta tables and so on. And Iceberg is now also supported. Good. If you want more information, there's a good web page written by Aaron Ulag, who is the corporate vice president for Azure Data in Microsoft. And the next two conferences next year are in Atlanta and Barcelona. And I really recommend going there. Thank you very much. Hopefully, I gave you some insights on the new stuff. Oh.
All right, thank you. So lots of exciting new things coming up in Fabric. I have talked to many customers lately, and I would say that all customers are starting to move towards Fabric, even the ones that have been thinking, is it ready yet, are now moving forward. And I think it's good because Microsoft is pushing it themselves so much and using so much resources to build it. I thank you for attending. If you want to contact us, there's our emails. That's probably the easiest one. You can call us if you want the number, but I think email is probably the easiest one. We can come and tell you more about what we have done or how Fabric could perhaps help your organization. Thank you everyone for participating and hopefully see you soon. Thank you.